So, Ade, Eubank Jr and Conor Benn. The much-awaited fight in some quarters has been announced for April 26th at my mate Daniel Levy's Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Yep.
I'm pretty clear on my view on it, for what it's worth.
What? You don't want to see it, or?
No, I don't like it. I don't think it's the right fight. I think there's a lot of things around that fight that don't sit very well with me. I can't sit there and have said the things that I've said over the last 2 years and then suddenly rock up ringside like some parasite that wants to come to the latest freebie.
Your pushback over the last 2 years, and it was a valid pushback, was always about Conor Benn and his situation with the British Boxing Board of Control and UCAD. That was your biggest pushback.
In part it was.
Yeah.
But prior to that, my pushback was I didn't think it was a fight that I wanted to see anyway. I don't think a 147 fighter... Nigel will tell me, Conor Benn, he walked around at 175.
Yeah.
Walked around at 175. I find that difficult to see Conor Benn, given what I saw at Christmas when I met him for a drink, walking around like a light heavyweight. Right? But I'll bow to Nigel's knowledge, right? I don't like a 147 fighter that I think should be ploughing his trough
but he hasn't
in his own division.
147 for 2 years. So for me, he's a 154 fighter down to 160, which I think's more...
There's more validity to it.
You can take that, right?
And then the other side of the equation, which I've never liked, is I admired Chris Eubank Sr. and I most certainly admire Nigel Benn. And these boys are trading in their father's legacies. And if that's what we want to see and that's what we recognise as top-flight boxing, then that's fine for other people. I don't recognise it. I understand why other people do. So I look at it and go, I would like to see Conor Benn fight for a world title. He had an opportunity, I understand, against Barrios, which is now being replaced by the cash cow that Chris Eubank presents.
Yeah.
Chris Eubank spends his entire time, with all due respect to the fact he's a brilliant orator in the boxing world, telling everybody how much money he's making rather than the fights that he's actually going to be taking of meaningful levels against world title holders. And when he does, he gets beat. So this is just a spectacle. It's entertainment, and I get it. But I'm a bit pious on this subject.
I think it's a bit more than entertainment, though. I think that you've got a...
Well, it is entertainment.
Well, yeah, of course it is. But with the legacy of the fathers and the history of the fathers and the family feud and all that, I get that, and that is the selling point. But it's still an intrigue in the fight going into this one with Conor Benn, with Chris Eubank Jr., where they're at in their careers.
It, but he's asked me my reasons why I don't want to watch it. And
but surely you must have an interest in it, surely.
Simon will watch it.
I won't go to it.
You'll watch it?
But you'll watch it.
Well, I won't avoid it, let's say.
I
avoided the Fury versus Ngannou fight because I thought it was absurd.
But that's completely different. This is two boxers. This is two boxers. And I know this talk about two weight classes. For me, it's one weight class. Yeah. Again, I was at Conor's last fight in America. He walks into the ring.
What is he?
Weighed in 154 pounds.
Chris Eubank is a 168 fighter, boiling down to 160.
I agree with that. Chris, at this stage of his career, and at this age, at 35, he should really be at 168. Although a lot of talk about living the life, his frame in the ring at 160 is frail and small and skinny. Yeah. It really is. Yeah. And this rehydration cap could be a bit of a problem for him. But, boxing's full of wild west and crazy things happening. 99% of the year we're going to get really good fights. I don't mind this happening as a spectacle. I really don't.
Well, hang on. You mentioned the rehydration clause. Yeah. Both Ben Shalom and Frank Smith were on talkSPORT the other day talking about this. Let's have a listen to what they actually said.
It isn't something that we expected. We thought we'd left all that behind, and it was put in at the last minute, if I'm honest, from the other side. For me, as a boxing promoter, I don't like to see it.
It's a big jump up for Conor Benn, coming up 2 weight divisions, and I think Chris isn't a huge middleweight himself, so I don't think the talk of a 170 is going to be an issue anyway. Being completely honest, I'm not in his camp, and look, he wouldn't have agreed it if he didn't feel comfortable with it.
Spence, you've been sort of playing both Arthur and Martha on this fight, chopping and changing. How have you,
you know what I mean?
In this world that we live in, Donald Trump?
Come on, mate.
Have you now settled your mind as to how you see this fight playing out?
Yeah, I have. I think I have now.
Which is what?
Which I say is it's a very interesting one because of where they're sat in their careers. Chris Eubank being 37, Conor Benn being 27, but the weight, for me, goes in the favour of Chris Eubank Jr. at 160, and the rehydration clause, by the way.
Everyone's okay with that?
Which everyone's making a big deal of. Oh, they've made it a rehydration clause. That should have been wiped out. £10 for a fighter in a rehydration clause, which, by the way, happens that weigh-in, the re-weighing, happens in the morning of the fight. So you've still got time to put more weight on as well. So it'll probably be in £14, £15 up, if that. But if you go too much up after you've made weight anyway, that will work against you because you'll come in sluggish. It won't work in your favour. So don't read into the rehydration clause. And remember, Eubank has boxed at 160 for his last few fights for a few years now. So look, That's why I think he's start
unimpressively
favourite.
in the first Liam Smith fight, though.
Yeah.
Let's be fair.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
My only thing about this rehydration thing is Conor's calling out Chris. Yeah?
Yeah.
Fair? Conor's calling out Chris.
Yeah.
If you're calling me at my weight class, come to my weight class. Don't come to my weight class and then put stipulations in there.
Yeah.
If you're going to come to me, if you're calling me to come to 160, then let's roll the dice and have fun at 160. Don't do the 160, but then 10 pounds. But I want you to really jump. And again, look, big fan of Conor, but the narrative of 147 to 160, again, it's a 154 to 160.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't fought.
And you've got a 168 draining down to 160.
Yeah,
let's remember this.
Let's roll the dice at 160
balances
and let's just put as much weight as we want on so there are no excuses. Because if Conor were to stop Chris, the things after is going to be rehydration, rehydration. So you should have just gone to 160.
And then
if you're going to 160, just go to 160.
But in the great scheme of things, in the outcome, and I'm going to ask you to pick who you think's going to win in a second, Eddie. Conor has the get out of jail card, doesn't he? Because if he loses this fight, it'll always be that he went up weight classes, irrespective of the fact that we're painting it as it is now. You're painting it as it is, which is a 154 fighter going up to 160, not a 147 fighter going up to 160. But he'll always have that. Whereas if Chris Eubank Jr. loses, that's really the end of discussion, or potentially should be, for Chris Eubank Jr. being marketed now as a going concern fighter that can fight the top end or the top echelons of whichever weight class he chooses to participate in.
Agreed. This is risky for Chris. Chris loses everything here. I mean, obviously, he makes money. I don't want to say it's a lose-lose because he makes a lot of money regardless. But for Conor Benn, I mean, he's almost in a situation, as you say, if he goes up, he got beat by the bigger guy.
He's got to get out of jail card.
Yeah, complete.
Chris Eubank Jr. retires if he loses this fight. You won't see him in the boxing ring again. That is a fact.
And let's not forget as well, by the time this rolls round, Conor wouldn't have been in the ring for 14 months.
Yeah.
So Conor's going to say, look, I was out the ring for 14 months. I jumped a couple of weight classes. You're the more experienced guy. I lost, I tried, I gambled.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if the result is in some way not to Chris Eubank Jr.'s liking and he can sell a rematch, then we'll see him back in the ring in the same way that we saw him back in the ring against Liam Smith.
Yeah, well, listen, it's all about the money, isn't it, if that's the case?
I think Conor stops him.
It's always been all about the money.
I think Conor stops Chris.
So do I.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think Conor
For what my opinion is worth saying, given the fact I'm not going to the fight, I do. I think the sheer ferocity and the bad intentions of Conor Benn will catch up with Chris Eubank Jr.
I think Chris takes a hard-fought points decision. I think he takes.
Yeah, I think I give Conor 6 rounds.
Yeah.
But I think
and if he hasn't done that,
after that, once it goes past 6,
you
then
go.
Conor.
You want to have another bet on that, Jim?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Let's
right.
do it. Let's
Go
do
on.
it, mate.
Nicola said no more bets. Talking about...
I'm in a lot of trouble, mate. He's stitching me up.
Okay.
On the undercard, we've obviously now got, or we haven't obviously got, but we've got Anthony Yard going back in the ring against Lyndon Arthur.
Yeah.
I don't know what that says about the direction of travel for Anthony Yard, because you've got Josh Boazzi over here fighting Callum Smith. You've got Anthony Yard in the studio blaming Josh Boazzi for the fact that they couldn't make this fight, and Josh Boazzi's sort of, to be honest with you, I know some of the negotiations. I know it wasn't Boazzi stopping the fight.
Yeah.
But what does this say about Anthony Yard? I mean, obviously, we got to see a performance from him. The last performance we saw wasn't particularly invigorating. The first fight against Lyndon Arthur during COVID was uninspiring. The second fight was Anthony Yard at his best, right? That's the kind of performance that he'd have to put on.
Motivation, Simon, with Anthony Yard. I was with him Saturday night, actually, and it's all about motivation. At this stage of your career, when you're boxing someone of a lesser name and it's just a tick-over fight, you underperform. You drop down to their level. That is a fact that does happen. You can forgive him for that. When you look back at the Better Beer fight and you look at the way he performed in that, you go, well, it's not a case of, he's Anthony Yard now on the slide. He underperformed against a guy that was never at his level. I think going into this fight with Lyndon Arthur, he demonstrated, he lost that first fight under the circumstances, a game where they were in that behind closed doors situation.
In the second fight, it was a whirlwind, wasn't it?
Yeah, second fight, he went out there and obliterated him. I think for Anthony Yard right now, this is all about getting the opportunity on the Riyadh card, puts his name back in the hat, name in the mix for all the big fights that are happening in that light heavyweight division right now. So for him, it's all about, that will motivate him now, because you go, right, I'm in there. He's done, I think he's done.
That can only be the motivation, because as you say, we were there in the copper box.
Yeah.
And he destroyed Lyndon Arthur.
Yeah.
No one was screaming for a trilogy. No one. No one. So, the only motivation could be, OK, let me just put my hat.
His name in the hat, mate.
Obviously, Turkey will be there. He'll be watching, and he'll probably say, OK, if Joshua Boazzi does come through the Callum Smith fight, and it's an if, Lyndon and Yard comes through, then I'm guaranteeing that fight will happen in the summer.
Yeah,
it has to
I see it happening as a final eliminator for the winner of Better Bivol, something like that. That would be the prize for coming through that.
What we can't have with Yard though, and we've seen it throughout his career now, is you do a Kovalev and then you drop right back down. You do a Beterbiev, then you drop. Can we just have something like that?
Well,
Can it be like that?
Again,
why does it have to do that all the time?
Again,
Which is surprising
now.
given the matchmaking of Frank Warren in the past, but I think there's a little bit of Tundi in the mix there that makes it happen in that certain respect and wants the top money for perhaps lesser names. Listen, I hope it's a good fight.
Yeah.
You know, I like Lyndon Arthur as well. I think he's a decent fighter as well, and has had decent outcomes in recent times, albeit some challenging ones too. We see the return of Liam Beefy Smith, which is nice. I like Liam. I'm a big admirer of the Smith fans. You know, the Smith family, all of them, from Paul's unfortunate losses against Arthur Abraham, through to Stephen, through to Callum,
who did it. Family.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a decent bunch of lads as well. Liam was on the show with us the other day, very confident, very motivated, talking about bigger and brighter things and opportunities for him. Where do you see Liam going? Do you think he's got another turn of the wheel in him for something meaningful?
I'm not sure. And I know that's a bit of a cop-out, sitting on the fence answer, but honestly, I'm not sure. I really wanted to see him against Josh Kelly. And obviously, injury, whatever happened in camp, we didn't see that. And that would have been the good barometer. OK, let's see you against a very fast-moving Josh Kelly coming up in weight. So this fight, it's just a case of get through it. And it's not easy against McKenna. He's going to be pushed. Get through it, and then hopefully we can see some big names at 160.
I think you're right though. This is the yardstick. This tells us where Liam Smith is sat right now, because Aaron McKenna, tough kid, 19 unbeaten, you know, but he'll keep coming, very persistent in his work, and he'll push Liam Smith. But it is about levels, and Smith has competed at that level. And if he's still at that level, he should come through this one with flying colours. He should.